Okay, this is going to be the procedure to replace dome switches inside of the Merlin ISP. The first thing that you're obviously going to need to do is remove the screws holding in the ISP. Pull it out, disconnect the wires from the back. I believe you guys have done this before. And then let's get it onto a tabletop. Okay, we have the ISP on the table. You'll want to be careful while handling the ISP. You do not want to disrupt this cable, this band here, that can come apart and create other problems. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to peel back this panel off of the PC board. There's two layers. There is the black layer, then there is a interim layer, and you need to spread it between the interim layer and the green part of the PCB board. Okay, so what we're going to try and do now is we're going to try to peel back the layer so that we can gain access to the dome switches. I have taken another side of this panel and already pried it apart so that I can show you what the layers look like. We have the black mylar layer that's on top of a clear, kind of a gasket type layer, which then is glued to a PC board. So you don't want to pull back the mylar away from the gasket. What we want to do is grab both pieces together, get underneath this bottom layer, and pull that back to expose the switches. So on this side, where you have the up and down switches, these are the switches, or at least this up switch is where you're usually having the problem. We're going to want to get this X-Acto. You want to dig it down inside as close to the board as you can, trying to get between the two layers. And then once you've got that thing started, you're going to want to then just start pulling it back. This adhesive is somewhat tenacious. You're going to need to use a little bit of force to pull that back, but once it starts going, it'll pull back relatively easy, exposing the dome switches and also the icons if they have something in there. You want to be careful not to fold over the mylar, otherwise it'll crease the material. But you want to get enough access to where you can get in here and work to remove the switch that is taped in with this ESD tape. Okay, now that we've got the layers separated, what we're going to do is remove the defective dome switch. And that'll what we'll need to do is the two dome switches here and here are connected with the piece of tape, one single piece of tape. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of score that a little bit so we can take off just the one switch. Once we've scored it, then we're going to want to lift the defective one away from the PC board. And then you can take your tweezers in here make sure you got it lifted all the way. You can use your finger there. And then lift this all the way off. Okay, now we've cut out a small piece of the ESD tape. What we're going to do is we're going to peel back the tape away from the backing. And then we're going to apply it to the new button in the same orientation as the old one, which is across the long ends. I would just do this on a table. Doesn't have to be exact, just needs to be on top of the button. Then we're ready to install it back into or onto the PC board. Now we need to grab the new button with the tape on it, open up the layers, and then lay it across the contacts so that it looks like it's aligned as closely as you can. I want to try and get it centered around the rings. Once you have it reasonably straight, go ahead and push down on the tape to secure it in place. Make sure it's pushing correctly, and then you're pretty much done. Just pull back the layer, push it around a little bit to kind of get it stuck, and the screws will hold it in, or you can put a little bit of epoxy around the screw holes, but this should hold it just fine. Now you're ready to install.